Hello, people of the internet. My name is Shady Shadow, and I want to go and talk a little bit about the responses I'm getting to the video I made last week of the reason why I don't think Change the Channel's mob mentality is working that well. And I don't want to go into too much detail. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I do feel as though everything that needs to be said has been said, but this whole thing with Brad Jones and what happened there is kind of new. It's kind of a new thing that's been going on, and a lot of people who have been following this have been talking about this. So I want to get into some of the responses I got. Now, there have been a few good responses, some critical, however constructive, but there's also been ones that prove that everything that I've said about this is correct. That you don't really listen. They don't really want to hear any other points of view. They're trying to find a way in order to pick apart whatever was said or spin things in order to make it sound as though you're not knowing what you're talking about. Now, there are a few mistakes that I made I want to touch upon, but I do want to bring up, before I go any further, I do want to bring up this whole thing right here. Now, first thing first, do you like this format of the split screen? I'm trying to play around with it, see how it goes, so please give your thoughts about if I should change anything. I probably am going to change some things. This is a rough thing I just did. So, this thing here about the stuff that you're seeing on the screen right in the moment, I highlighted this. I don't want to go into great detail about what it says because YouTube and the monetization thing been going on. All I will say is that if you don't know what this is all about, apparently there were some posts in the Spooky Experience Reddit page that were attributed to the name of cinematic_venom. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail about what my feelings are about that. I don't want to speculate any more than I absolutely have to, which is not at all. All I want to say is I said my piece about that and what I believe in this thread here. If you do feel as though that this is something that's credible, go to the cops, go to the authorities, whatever the regional equivalent is in your area. That goes with anybody who's gotten threats like that or believe that they're credible. Don't just go into YouTube comment sections, and I'm not saying that he did or didn't do anything, but please go to the cops. Please, please, please take the proper methods, because one, we can't do anything about it. There's nothing we can do. And two, you can't say that they didn't do anything if you didn't try to press charges or something like that. So, yeah. I said citation needed. Of course, there's a screenshot there. He's denied it, stuff like that. And I've said my piece about, hey, he does have a couple Twitter accounts, but he said there's those for different types of genres and entertainment he does. So, I don't know. Please, if you think that he has done so, please go to the proper authorities or whoever it is. Somebody must have posted those. If it's not him, it must have been somebody. So take the proper procedures to do that. Now, there are a few things that brought up here, in the little bit of nitpick is that I said that I didn't know for sure if Laura was Brad's wife. Maybe I wish she wasn't, because she's a pretty attractive individual. Not trying to say anything, but Brad's a pretty lucky guy. She is a pretty person. I will completely come out there and admit that. But I should have done my research on that, a little bit more on that, before I went and did that. However, that having been said, I did that the way I did it. That way, if I was wrong, if I said definitely and then I was wrong, I would have gotten trounced upon for that. So I think that way it played it a little bit safer than if I had definitely said one way or the other, she is or she isn't, and then I get trounced upon if I was wrong. So it's better that I did that. Now, let me go to the biggest thing about this, is that the fanboyism and the bias, which I don't think is the proper way to go about this. Now, the main reason why I don't really go into great detail about why, or why I feel like my opinions are just, is because I do believe I went through those a lot of times. When I should get off the split screen here. When I talk about these type of things, I kind of want to defer to the other videos. I don't want to go into great detail because it'll be me talking for about an hour about what is my basis behind my opinions. Plus, I want for people to go watch those because I took a great deal of time doing those. I created 5 videos past year before this whole thing went down to touch upon every single last reason why I do believe the things I'm saying. And why it's a little bit personal for me, because one of the people was a part of the Crash Override Network and went after somebody who I consider a friend, and she hasn't been on Twitter in a while, and I hope that she's doing okay. But that having been said, I want to defer to those videos instead of me going into great detail again for like the 15th time about why I believe Lindsay Ellis was lying, or why I believe she wasn't telling the entire truth, or why the clicks matter, or why this or that thing mattered. And because it had this sort of pattern that was going on. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm completely correct. That just means, based on what I've seen, this is what I believe. And based on what I've seen them do in other venues, I can say that maybe when I looked at them here, that I don't believe them to be completely truthful, even when they have these documents and all of these screenshots. It doesn't really mean a whole lot when you have a history of not being truthful or being toxic yourself. You can say all you want about, okay, the highest ups, Doug, Rob, and Mike were being toxic or whatever. But if you're being toxic yourself, that's like the pot calling the kettle black. If you have this clique and you are being, and I hesitate to use the term woke to discuss these things, but I believe that's the only thing I can say in order to get it to click, is the word woke. They got woken, and as far as Lindsay is concerned, that's probably the reason why she suddenly did a 180 about that Chipotle free scene. I do believe that when you get into that field, and when that whole neo-authoritarian side becomes ultra toxic, like what Reset Era is right now, you kind of get a sense that perhaps there was something to that made Mike go off the deep end. Now, does that make him have a get-out-of-jail-free card to be a dick? Absolutely not. I do believe they handled things poorly. Now, is it bad business practice, or is there something more than that? That's my question. And in my opinion, I don't think it's anything more than that. There's miscommunication, mismanagement. There was a lot of things that about the assault cases that was bizarre about the first case. I think the second case was one that they acted upon, and I have heard that the reason why they didn't talk about the first case was that they thought that what they were talking about was the first case. And because the first case that was in the document was so bizarre, and I said that's in another video of mine, where you had to go into a whole bunch of different aspects to it. The mental versus physical age, the age consent in whatever state they lived in, or whatever country they lived in. All of those things, or whether or not she consented at first, and then all of a sudden turned around whatever it was. And then, of course, the victim didn't want his name to be mentioned. And then it was a mess. And I don't mean that in order to put the blame on her, but good Lord, that's too much for me to say, you know what, I would never want to be a judge in that case. I would never want to sit on a jury on that kind of case, because I would not know what to say. That would be a hung jury for days while I try to figure out what the verdict was. One way or the other on the different things. So I do believe that the second case was much more clear-cut. If they didn't act on that one, then game, set, match. They would have deserved everything they got and then some, if they didn't act upon that one. So, at the very least, they did do something. I mean, maybe they could have acted a little bit sooner, but whatever. I do, now, as far as bias is concerned, I did at first take the producer side. I did read the TLDR version of this first, and then I looked at the other full document, and then I did the video last year, the hour-and-a-half long video last year, in which I detailed why I could not take the producer side, because there was a lot of stuff about outrage culture and stuff like that, and I remember a lot of the stuff that I went into that made me believe that something else was going on. And plus, even if you prove those things from the other people, keep in mind the nature of some of those claims. 80% of those claims were things that you would expect somebody who was handling a business badly to be doing, and not specifically illegal. And again, that doesn't mean it's right, but at the same time, if you don't like where you're working, then you can go somewhere else. I mean, the best way to make your presence known is saying, hey, I don't like how you're treating me. Even if it's you go out on your own, you do your own thing, it's not as profitable as it was when you were with them, is to say, hey, I'm done. Exit stage left. Do the exodus. And prove that you can do your own stick. And that made me a little... It's weird in that sense. Again, I'm not saying that anybody was saints in this. And I think there's no winners. That's what I'm trying to say. There's no winners there. And so I did change my stance halfway through this. Because it was like what NeoGAF went through when Talamalka had his exodus when he got accused. And all those toxic people from that site went to join the Forum Reset era. NeoGAF is 10 times better now. But Talamalka lost all control. Here, I think Mac Bashad was trying to keep control by becoming a dick. And if he is that much of a dick, then what's going on that Malcolm and Tamara and all those people are not saying the same thing? Why is Rachel Tias not saying the same thing? That to me is saying there's something about that crew, and they have said, oh, there was preferential treatment toward the Chicago crew, which is basically them, that makes me feel as though there's something about those people who were in the document that might have not exactly been told that, okay, maybe they were just as volatile and they were hard to work with and it made everybody go crazy. It was just a toxic environment in that sense. Now, when you go to Chicago, it's a lot better. Maybe they're working especially with Doug, and I don't believe that Malcolm would say anything just to protect his employers, because he doesn't have to lie because he's protected under union law. There's no reason for him to lie. And for him to say that, it's like, okay, maybe we do believe it. I believe that we have to give them the equal time. And I don't think we've done that. That's why I'm saying I don't believe we've given them equal time. I'm looking at my time here because I don't want to go too much. I don't want to ramble too much. That's another one of the major complaints people have had, that I ramble on a little bit too much. First of all, blame the YouTube algorithm. For some weird reason, it doesn't let you monetize. unless it's above 10 minutes. So what we have to do is we have to fill 10 minutes. And everybody gets criticized when they try to fill the void. And the best way for us to stop doing that is to say to YouTube, hey, give us some slack. Stop doing what you're doing with these corporate people and benefit those people who have made your platform what it is. So you can do that kind of stuff. Why are we being shoved out to the side when we're the people who got you to that point? But that's for another video. I think I made that video, actually. But I don't think I'm being biased. But I don't think, though, I have explained the whole Brad Jones thing well. And, again, it's just because I don't want to go and repeat myself time in and time out. And I think that's one of the flaws about the mob mentality, is that it feels like they're asking the same questions we've already answered. Now, a couple things that I should have done is I should have seen this interview. I should have not seen. I think there is a video of the Double Toasted interview. I believe that's the interview we're talking about here. If there is another interview that he says something else, please direct me to that, because this is the only one I've found, was the Double Toasted interview. And I can't remember if I've seen that there was a video of it. I know there's a SoundCloud of that, where he goes into detail. And I want to bring up this, and I believe this is important to bring up, because as much as I think that perhaps maybe people have seen this, I think this is important because of Allison bringing up the text messages, saying that this is a bold-faced lie. The interview was me, and that was the interview. I'm guessing that's the Double Toasted interview that we're going to be talking about. Asked about my own personal experience with controversy, which I did answer, which is true. I from what I remember about it, because it was a couple days ago since I heard it. I'm not mentioning Allison anywhere on the Twitter or on the interviews. That is true. He has not, at least up to this point, which is, this was uploaded February 13th. Up to this point, he didn't. It's not because seriously disturbed people would not leave me alone about it. That's probably the Applebee's tweet, and that wasn't handled well. I can understand, like I said, I can understand why he did that. But at the same time, it wasn't handled well. Maybe that's him trying to take back what he said, the way he said it. At the very least, the way he said that. Blocking my number, that is a gigantic lie. I have not had her number for nearly a year, let alone have ever called or texted her. What actually happened was my wife contacted her a few weeks ago because one of her supporters attempted to swat us on the day of Laura's dad's funeral. And when Laura, justifiably pissed off, confronted her about it, it was shrugged off. That's about what I got out of that text message. Was that Laura did say somebody swatted us, and Allison said that was horrible, and okay, more power to her on that. But when she started to go off and say CTC made this happen, one of your supporters did, and said no, they didn't. Now, what I'm saying is that why the battle over that? That's what I'm saying. Like, why this drawn out battle when all you really have to do is to say, look, I know you're irritated, I know it's frustrating, I know you're scared and all of this. I want to make sure you're aware that I did not personally send anybody after you. And I don't want you to think that I support anybody from changing out doing this. I'll make sure that we distance ourselves from whoever did this. That way they act alone. And whatever happens from there can be sorted out. And then do that. And then that would be done. That's really it. That's all she would have to do, and it would be done. It would be over with. Instead, the battle. Instead, the drawn-out battle about this. Now, I don't understand it. Why this is the battle. Why she has to claim in the first place that he lied. Even if she said, hey, this is CTC that was doing, or even if she was accused of doing that, you know what? Maybe, yeah, I understand Laura is scared. This is a funeral that it happened. Sometime around the funeral. SWAT is on the day of Laura's dad's funeral. Doesn't necessarily mean that it was at the funeral. But when you're saying that, hey, he's lying that he was swatted, or lying that it was us or anybody associated, as if she knew that there was no one in CTC that could have possibly, or anyone who could possibly just use the CTC as a way to get attention. Remember Alaz, the New Zealand shooter, using all those memes before he went out and shot the freaking place. Remember how he got attention there, and of course the media gives him attention because, yeah, that's the media. That's what they do, apparently, is they give mass shooters attention because they want to get rid of us for whatever reason. But attention seekers, they don't need a reason to use stuff like this. There you go. That's all they need, is the reason. They could say, hey, I'm with CTC, I'm going to shoot up a school. Does that mean that Allison's at fault? Maybe, maybe not. But is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? No. But if you try to distance, if you do what Allison did, then you have some sort of suspicion toward her. I'm not saying that she did do any of that, but it was not the right way to do it. The other reason why I think that that's not a good idea was because of the stuff with Spoonie and the constant things that she's doing right now alongside Marshall, the whole kick fic thing, which personally, I have no idea what's even going on in that anymore. It's back and forth, and I refuse to pick a side on that because there was just so many different things that are going on with that one way or the other. Like, who's saying what and why are they saying what they're saying? Somebody do something. At the very least, give them a new internal investigation in Funimation, because that was screwed up. But other than that, I have no idea. But all of that put together, and you can say which one about what Spoonie actually did, whether he is fired, he quit. There was a lot of debate about what exactly happened there. The only thing that I know is that Spoonie and Jessica Talk To made up after that ill-timed joke, or the off-color joke, and then a couple months later, Lupa brought it back up, and then went absolutely dickish about it, because apparently Spoonie has the depression he went through and all that. I don't know exactly the details about his depression and all that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's scattered there. And no, don't get on me about that, because, oh boy, I know what people are going to say. You should do more research. But that's why people are not completely trusting her. And the way you get us to trust you is to just say what I think you should have said. And plus, to not give us more reasons to think that you are not that great of a person. So, the double toasted interview. Now, let me get to that last, because I do believe that I need to talk about that. Because the double toasted interview, I believe he was not trying to dismiss anybody. He was trying to say that within 2 weeks or something like that, everybody is going to move on to the next thing. And that's pretty much how the cycle works, right? It's a couple of weeks, people are so up in arms about it, and then they move on to whatever the next thing is. People like Logan Paul, people like PewDiePie, a lot of these people who, even Pro Jared, that died down after a couple of weeks. But that is why I do believe that most of the time he's completely correct in that regard. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody forgets. I believe people kind of forgive and move on. Now, the people who are affected are the ones going to stick around. But the majority of those are going to say, you know what, okay, resolved, move to the next thing. With this particular thing, I think it was a combination of people doing what they were doing, but then the people who were stuck around started to get extremely toxic, because again, we go to the outrage culture. And what happens is that they say, you know what, I don't want to be associated with this, because then you're showing your true colors here. Maybe he was right about you. Maybe Mashad was right in finding you because you're getting so uptight about little things. Erod was probably not the bug. He was probably one of the features. The problem is that if you want people to believe your case and want people to support you, you had to be a little bit more inviting and willing to answer a little bit of questions when some things come up. I don't believe that happened. Now, as far as the fanboyism goes, now I want to bring this thing up last. Regardless of what you think about what I just said, and you can think whatever you want, that's whatever. I believe that if I had completely went on their side, 100% went on their side, and said, hey, Channel Snob should apologize, blah, 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 whatever, would that get anybody's attention? No. And the reason why is because there's way too many people who are doing that. You had Venom, I think Soft Lantern said something, and she's still saying something. I think a couple other people have as well. And this was a big thing, and everybody was taking their side. But there were a few people that were not exactly taking their side. There was me. I think there was a guy named Bad Cop 69, or is it 69 or something like that? I can't find his channel now. But he really didn't like Lindsay. And then, of course, there's McShaw Curtis, who was saying that Holly was a garbage person. Here's the thing. If you have somebody who takes a different side, I took a different side and I got attention. Now, I wasn't fishing for it, of course, but you can understand that that was like, wait a minute, he's not really taking their side. Why? And, of course, people did attack me, but you see, they were compelled enough to say something because they didn't hear stuff like that. They didn't expect for somebody to not take the producer's side and to be honest about that. Does that mean that I'm completely correct? Does that mean I'm not ever making mistakes? No. As you have seen, I have made a few mistakes. I should have done more research about whether or not Laura was Brad's wife. Okay? I think that's a little nitpicking, but whatever. The thing about it is that I believe that you need to, at the very least, hear those people out. If they have a different opinion, that's fine. It is when you see that they are backing them up. And I've always said I invite everybody to say their piece. To say, hey, what do you think? Leave comments down below, which you could do here. I have never said that you couldn't disagree. I asked to keep it civil and constructive, but I would love to hear the agreements and disagreements of what you think. Because I know this is a sensitive thing. I know there's still people there who really do feel engaged. But I do also believe that there are some people out there right now who are not really serious about hearing everybody out. And it really pains me to see that there are some people who get attacked just for saying stuff that they don't agree with. Like me being called biased or being called fanboy. Are you just saying that because you really do believe that I didn't do my research or whatnot? Or are you just saying that because I didn't agree with you, or I said something that you agree with, or you didn't agree with. Because if it's the latter, then that's disingenuous. And that should not be. I do invite people to talk about this, and I don't know if I'm going to do another video about this unless there's something else that comes up. Now, let me actually touch upon this last thing. I think Cinematic Venom is asking for a debate. I'm not sure if I want to do that right this second, because there's a lot of things I'm trying to get done as well. There's a lot of projects I want to be doing, and I don't want to stick to this for too long. However, I want to hear from my audience. Not just people who are coming from his channel to say, oh my god, how horrible you are, to not agree. That I don't want. It's not necessarily him that I'm not comfortable with, because he has said some things like don't harass or whatnot, and came to me and say, hey, don't hurt yourself, stuff like that. And more power to him for that. So he gets some points there. However, and by the way, I haven't watched his response because I had a feeling it was going to be the same thing that he has been saying, which is why I wanted to address that. Whether or not I should is not an entire matter entirely, but the whole thing about it is I want to hear from my audience, the people who come to watch most of what I do, like the HN thing that I've been covering, of course, my reaction videos, my gameplay videos, and stuff like that. What would you be doing? I want to hear what you have to think. Leave in the comment section down below. Oh god, 32 minutes. Yay! At the very least, I'll get those comments. Wow. Oh man. I guess I'm doomed to always have long videos. Jeez. Okay, so I will see you next time. Hopefully, I can move on to other topics. If you want me to do that debate, let me know. We'll see what we can do. I will try to do some more positive content in the future. Until next time, don't harass anybody, regardless of the side they take. I said that in the last video. I'm not sure exactly when I said it, but I did say it. Don't harass anybody, regardless. That should be the default status of any human being. We shouldn't have to say it, but in the case of this, when there's volatile people going around, don't harass people. Be constructive, be engaging, but please do it in a way that makes people want to talk to you. Because that's not only is the status of any human being, that should be the status of any human being, but it should be something that will make people want to engage with you. That'll make me want to engage with you. That'll make him want to engage with you, because we put our necks out here all the time, and to make this kind of content in order to put our viewpoints out there. And that should be enough for you to at the very least respect what we do. I like doing this. I like showing what my opinions are, even if you don't agree. And these are just what my opinions are. Everybody's going to have a bias. That's what opinions are. Just because we're objective doesn't mean we can't pick a side. It just means that we try to look at things through both lenses before we decide, hey, that's what we're going to go with. And we try to give everybody a chance before we make a decision. But I'm going on 35 minutes, so I'm going to try to end the video here. Leave comments down below. Please go and subscribe. Hit that like button down below. That helps me out a great deal. And I will see you next time. My name is JD Shadow, and that just happened.